A waitress approached a wealthy millionaire with an urgent warning. She advised him not to finalize a business deal with his best friend. The following morning, a sleek luxury car was conspicuously parked near her modest home. Part 2. Later that afternoon, Dawson drove to the modest neighborhood where Emelyn lived. It was a far cry from the luxury and wealth he was accustomed to. Small, weathered houses lined up in neat rows, narrow streets crowded with aging cars, lawns with overgrown grass. It was a humbling reminder that not everyone lived in the world of power and privilege that he did. He parked his car in front of a small, humble house with chipped paint and worn shutters. Taking a deep breath, Dawson walked up the path to the front door, feeling a rare sense of nervousness. This wasn't a business meeting or a negotiation. This was personal. He was stepping into her world, a world far removed from his own. He hesitated for a moment before knocking on the door. The sound echoed softly, and he heard movement inside. A moment later, the door opened, and Emelyn stood before him, her eyes wide with surprise. She looked the same as she had in the cafe, simple, unassuming, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, her expression kind and sincere. "Dawson?" she asked, clearly shocked to see him standing on her doorstep. What are you doing here?" Dawson smiled softly, his shoulders relaxing as he looked at the young woman who had changed his life. "I came to thank you," he said, his voice earnest, "for everything. You didn't have to warn me, you didn't have to get involved, but you did, and you saved me from losing everything." Emelyn's eyes softened, her cheeks flushing slightly with embarrassment. I couldn't let you go through with it. It didn't feel right." Dawson looked at her, his admiration growing. "You did more than just warn me. You showed more courage and integrity than most people I know, and I want to repay you for that." Emelyn's eyes widened in shock. "Repay me?" Dawson nodded. "Yes, I want to help you. Whatever you need. A new job, a scholarship, a better opportunity. Whatever you want, I'll make it happen. It's the least I can do." Emelyn looked overwhelmed, her eyes shimmering with emotion. I don't know what to say." Dawson smiled warmly. "Say yes. Let me help you the way you helped me." For a moment, Emelyn just stood there, stunned. Then she smiled, her eyes bright with gratitude. "Okay, yes, thank you." Dawson felt a weight lift from his heart, the first genuine relief he had felt in days. "No," he said softly. "Thank you." They stood there, two people from different worlds, connected by one act of courage. One had saved a company, the other had saved a future. And in that moment, Dawson knew that no matter how hard the road ahead would be, he wasn't facing it alone, not anymore. After a few moments, the door opened, and Emelyn stood there, her eyes widening with surprise at the sight of Dawson on her doorstep. She looked just as she did in the cafe, simple, unassuming, and entirely genuine. "Mr. Sullivan?" she asked, her brow furrowing in confusion. "What are you doing here?" Dawson offered her a small, genuine smile, his eyes softening. "I came to thank you, properly." Emelyn hesitated for a moment before stepping aside, gesturing for him to come in. "You didn't have to come all this way," she said, a note of embarrassment in her voice. "I was just doing what was right." Dawson stepped inside, his eyes taking in the modest interior of the home. It was clean and well kept, but it was clear that Emelyn and her mother were living with limited means. The furniture showed signs of wear, and the air was filled with the faint scent of herbal tea. It was a far cry from the world of luxury and power he was accustomed to, and it made him appreciate even more the courage it must have taken for Emelyn to speak up. Emelyn led him to the small living room, where they sat on an old, faded couch. She looked at him curiously, clearly unsure of what to expect. Dawson took a deep breath, his expression sincere. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened," he began, his voice steady. "I realized that if you hadn't spoken up that day, I would have lost everything. You didn't have to get involved, but you did, and that means more to me than I can ever put into words." Emily shifted uncomfortably, her cheeks flushing slightly. "I just did what anyone would have done," she said softly, her gaze dropping to her hands. "I couldn't let him do that to you." Dawson shook his head, his voice firm. "No, not everyone would have done what you did. Most people would have stayed quiet, convinced it wasn't their place. But you risked everything. You stood up for what was right, even when you had nothing to gain. That took courage." Emily's eyes widened slightly, her cheeks growing warmer. I just did what I thought was right," she murmured, clearly overwhelmed by his praise. Dawson smiled, his admiration for her growing. "Well, I want to repay you for that." He took a deep breath, his expression softening. "I know from our conversations that you had to give up school to take care of your mother. I'd like to help you finish your education if that's something you're still interested in." Emelyn's eyes went wide with shock, her mouth dropping open. "You? You mean you'd help me go back to school?" Dawson nodded, his smile warm. "I know you have a passion for economics, and from what I've seen, you have incredible instincts. You're smart, resourceful, and you see things that other people miss. I want to make sure you get the opportunity to finish what you started. And, if you're interested, I'd like to offer you a position at my company." Emelyn stared at him, her emotions a mix of disbelief and gratitude. "Eh? A job? At your company?" Dawson's eyes sparkled with sincerity. "Yes. You've already proven that you have the kind of integrity and intuition that can't be taught. I need people like you on my team, people who see beyond the surface and who have the courage to speak up. If you want it, the job is yours." Emelyn's eyes shimmered with tears, her hands trembling slightly. I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "This is more than I ever expected, more than I ever dreamed of." Dawson smiled warmly, his heart lifting as he saw the hope in her eyes. "You've earned it, Emelyn. You helped me when you didn't have to, when you had everything to lose. This is my way of saying thank you." Tears welled up in Emelyn's eyes and she quickly wiped them away, trying to maintain her composure. "I don't know how to thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Dawson. This means everything to me. I can go back to school, I can make a better life for my mom and me, I can finally follow my dreams." Dawson's chest tightened, his respect for her growing even more. "You deserve this, Emelyn. You deserve every opportunity to succeed, and I have no doubt that you will." Emelyn looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude, her smile radiant. "Thank you. Thank you so much." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the air filled with hope and possibility. For Dawson, this was more than just repaying a debt. It was about recognizing courage, integrity, and the power of doing what was right, no matter the cost. For Emelyn, it was the beginning of a new chapter, a chance to rise above her circumstances and create the future she had always dreamed of. They stood up, and Dawson extended his hand, his eyes kind and steady. "Welcome to the team, Emelyn." Emily shook his hand, her grip firm despite the tears shining in her eyes. "I won't let you down." Dawson smiled, his heart lighter than it had been in days. "I know you won't. You never did." As Dawson walked out of the small house, the sun shining brighter than before, he realized that his journey wasn't just about rebuilding his company. It was about rebuilding trust, hope, and faith in people. Emelyn had given him a second chance. Now it was his turn to do the same for her. Dawson reached out and gently placed his hand on her shoulder, his eyes warm with encouragement. "You don't have to thank me, Emelyn. Just take this opportunity and make the most of it. I believe in you." Emelyn's eyes shimmered with gratitude, her voice soft but firm. "I will, I promise." Dawson smiled, his chest feeling lighter than it had in weeks. For the first time since Rion's betrayal, he felt at peace. As he stood up and made his way to the door, he turned back to her, his expression gentle. "I'll have my team reach out to you about the details. But for now, just focus on taking care of your mother and thinking about what you want to do next. You've earned this chance, Emelyn. Don't be afraid to take it." Emelyn's smile widened, tears threatening to spill over once more. "Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I'll never forget this." Dawson gave her one last nod before stepping out into the cool evening air. As he walked back to his car, he felt a sense of closure for the first time since everything with Rion had unraveled. Emelyn's courage had changed his life, and now he had given her the chance to change hers as well. It wasn't just about repaying a debt. It was about recognizing courage and integrity where it mattered most. For Dawson, this was more than just an act of gratitude. It was the first step toward moving forward, toward healing, and toward rebuilding what had been shattered. As he drove away from Emelyn's humble neighborhood, he realized that she had given him something priceless. The reminder that loyalty and goodness still existed, even when it was least expected. The days that followed were a whirlwind of change for both of them. Emelyn spent much of her time reflecting on the incredible opportunity Dawson had offered her. Going back to school had always been a distant dream, one she had put aside to care for her mother. Now that dream was suddenly within reach, and the idea of working at Dawson's company felt like a chance she had never even dared to hope for. Yet, as much as she was excited, there was also hesitation. Emelyn was used to staying in the background, to helping others quietly and asking for nothing in return. Now she was being given the chance to step into a world she knew little about, and the thought both thrilled and terrified her. But Dawson believed in her, and that meant more to her than she could put into words. Meanwhile, Dawson was already putting things in motion. He spoke with his team to ensure everything was ready for Emelyn when she was ready to join. He wanted to give her time to think, knowing that this was a big decision, but he was confident she would accept. He had seen the spark in her eyes, the ambition waiting to be realized. She had the potential to do great things, and he was determined to help her get there. 1 week later, Dawson was in his office, reviewing paperwork, when his assistant's voice came over the intercom. "Mr. Sullivan, Emelyn Adams is here to see you." His heart lifted, anticipation flooding him. He had been waiting for this moment, and he was eager to see what she had decided. "Send her in," he replied, setting his paperwork aside. The door opened, and Emelyn stepped inside, looking a little nervous but with a determination in her eyes that Dawson immediately admired. He stood up, offering her a warm smile. "Emelyn, it's good to see you," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "How are you feeling?" Emily sat down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She took a deep breath, her gaze steady despite the nerves fluttering in her stomach. "I've been thinking a lot about your offer," she began, her voice even and sure. "And I've decided I want to accept it, both the chance to go back to school and the position at your company." Dawson's smile broadened, pride evident in his eyes. "I knew you'd make the right choice. You won't regret it, Emelyn. I have no doubt that you're going to do amazing things." Emelyn let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, her shoulders relaxing as a weight lifted from her chest. "It's a little overwhelming, to be honest. I never thought I'd be in a position like this. It almost feels unreal." Dawson's expression softened, his voice gentle. "I can't imagine what you've been through, but I know one thing. You earned this, not because of charity or pity, but because of your courage, your integrity, and your potential. You're one of the smartest people I've met, Emelyn, and I'm honored to have you on my team." Emelyn's eyes widened, her face flushing with a mixture of pride and gratitude. I don't know how to thank you, Dawson. You've changed my life." Dawson leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "You changed mine first. If it weren't for your courage, I would have lost everything. You saved my company, my future. I'm just returning the favor." Emelyn's eyes shimmered with emotion, her voice soft. "I didn't do it for any reward. I couldn't let him do that to you. It wasn't right." Dawson smiled, his admiration for her growing. "And that's exactly why you deserve this opportunity. You did the right thing, even when it was hard. That's the kind of character that can't be taught. That's why I want you on my team." They sat in silence for a moment, the air charged with possibility and hope. Emelyn's mind was racing, with all the dreams she could now pursue, and Dawson felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing that he was helping her achieve them. Dawson stood up, extending his hand. "Welcome to the team, Emelyn. We're going to do great things together." Emily stood as well, her grip firm as she shook his hand, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I won't let you down, I promise." Dawson's smile was warm, genuine. "I know you won't. I never doubted you." As Emelyn left his office, her heart felt light, her spirit renewed. She was stepping into a future she never thought possible, armed with hope and opportunity. Dawson watched her go, his heart swelling with pride. He had been through hell and back, but in the end he had gained something priceless, a loyal ally, a new beginning, and the reminder that courage and integrity were worth more than any fortune. Together they were going to build something incredible, and this time it would be built on trust, loyalty, and the courage to stand up for what was right. Dawson nodded, his eyes warm with understanding. "I know it's a big step, But you've already proven that you have what it takes. You have incredible instincts, and with your background in economics, you'll bring a fresh perspective to the team. And as for school, don't worry. We'll make sure you have the flexibility to balance both." Emelyn's lips curled into a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I really appreciate this. More than I can say." Dawson leaned forward, his expression serious but full of encouragement. "I want you to know something, Emelyn. This isn't just about repaying a favor. I see real potential in you. You've already shown that you can handle difficult situations with grace, intelligence, and courage. Those qualities are rare, and they're exactly what we need. I'm confident that with the right support, you'll thrive here." A swell of emotion rose in Emelyn's chest, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. No one had ever believed in her like this before. She had always been a hard worker, but she had grown used to going unnoticed, to blending into the background. Dawson's faith in her was both inspiring and daunting, but it gave her the strength to push through her self-doubt. "I won't let you down," she said, her voice steady and determined. Dawson's smile was warm and genuine, his eyes gleaming with pride. "I have no doubt about that. We'll get started on the paperwork for your school enrollment, and in the meantime, we'll begin integrating you into the company. You'll have a mentor assigned to help you get settled, and I'll always be here to guide you whenever you need." Emily nodded, feeling the weight and significance of the moment. This was a turning point, a chance to step into a new chapter of her life, one filled with possibilities she had never dared to dream of. The fear was still there, whispering in the back of her mind, but the excitement was stronger. After they finished discussing the details of her new role and her school plans, Emelyn stood to leave, her heart lighter than it had been in a long time. As she reached the door, she turned back to Dawson, her eyes sincere. "Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, for everything. I won't forget this." Dawson's expression softened, his voice gentle. "You've earned this, Emelyn. Welcome to the team." As she left his office, Emelyn felt as though a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She was walking into a future that was no longer limited by fear or circumstance. She was free to pursue her dreams, free to rise above her past. Over the next few weeks, Emelyn began her new journey, stepping into a world that was completely foreign to her. The transition from waitress to corporate employee was intimidating at first, but Dawson's company was a supportive environment. Her co-workers were welcoming and eager to help, and her mentor, a brilliant and compassionate woman named Alessandra, immediately took her under her wing. Alessandra was patient and knowledgeable, always ready to answer Emelyn's questions, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. She guided Emelyn through the complexities of the corporate world, teaching her everything from financial analysis to strategic planning. At first, Emelyn struggled with the learning curve. The corporate world was vastly different from the cafe she was used to, filled with complex hierarchies, detailed financial reports, and high-stakes strategic meetings. She often felt overwhelmed, out of place, and unsure of herself. But every time she felt herself slipping into doubt, she remembered Dawson's words. "I believe in you." With each passing day, Emelyn grew more confident. She absorbed everything like a sponge, applying her background in economics to her work and impressing her colleagues with her keen insights. Her ability to see patterns and trends others overlooked made her stand out, and it wasn't long before her coworkers began to take notice. Meanwhile, Dawson kept a watchful eye on her progress, quietly observing from a distance. He saw the way she adapted, the way she learned, the way she never backed down from a challenge. It gave him a sense of satisfaction and pride, knowing he had been right about her potential. Emelyn was more than just the waitress who had saved him from a disastrous deal. She was a rising star, a valuable asset to his company, and someone who was changing the way he saw the world. Amidst all of this, Dawson was still dealing with the fallout from Rion's betrayal. His legal team continued to work tirelessly, unraveling the tangled web of deceit and fraud Rion had created. The company's accounts were secure, and Rion's offshore funds had been frozen, but the legal battles were far from over. There were still deals to renegotiate, trust to rebuild, and damage to repair. It was exhausting, mentally and emotionally, but Dawson felt stronger, more resilient. Rion had nearly destroyed him, but Dawson had risen above the ashes, determined to rebuild his legacy on a foundation of integrity and loyalty. And with Emelyn by his side, he felt more prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. One afternoon, Dawson stopped by Emelyn's office, leaning casually against the doorframe as he watched her work. She was engrossed in her computer, her brow furrowed in concentration as she analyzed a financial report. "You're getting the hang of this," Dawson commented, his voice warm with approval. Emelyn looked up, her eyes brightening. "I had a great teacher," she replied, glancing at Alessandra, who smiled proudly. "And I've been learning from the best." Dawson chuckled, shaking his head. "You've always had it in you, Emelyn. All you needed was a chance to show it." Emelyn's expression softened, her voice sincere. "Thank you, Dawson, for giving me that chance." Dawson met her gaze, his voice quiet but firm. "No. Thank you for reminding me what loyalty and courage really look like. You helped me when I needed it most. Now, it's your turn to shine." They exchanged a smile, a mutual understanding passing between them. They were from different worlds, but they had changed each other's lives. As Dawson walked away, he felt a sense of hope and fulfillment. Emelyn was thriving, his company was healing, and his faith in humanity had been restored. In the end, the betrayal he had endured had led him to something far greater, a new beginning, a new ally, and a future built on trust and integrity. And as Emelyn continued to grow and excel, Dawson knew one thing for certain: he had made the right choice. Together, they were unstoppable. One evening, after a particularly long day at the office, Emelyn found herself staying late, working on a project for Alessandra. The office was quiet. Most of the employees had already gone home, leaving only the soft hum of the air conditioning and the faint glow of the city lights outside the window. As she sat at her desk, meticulously reviewing financial reports, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment she hadn't experienced in a long time. She was exactly where she was meant to be. Just as she was packing up to leave, she heard footsteps approaching. She looked up to see Dawson standing nearby, a look of surprise on his face. "Emelyn, you're still here?" he asked, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. Emelyn smiled, feeling a twinge of embarrassment at being caught staying so late. "Just finishing up some work for Alessandra. I wanted to make sure everything was perfect before I sent it over." Dawson chuckled, shaking his head. "You don't have to burn the midnight oil every night, you know." Emelyn shrugged, her smile widening. "I don't mind. I actually enjoy it. It feels good to work on something meaningful." Dawson leaned against the doorframe, crossing his arms as he watched her. There was a warmth in his gaze, a genuine appreciation for her dedication. "You're doing great work, Emelyn. I hope you know that." Emily felt a rush of pride at his words, her cheeks flushing slightly. "Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. That means a lot coming from you." Dawson's expression softened. "Call me Dawson," he said with a smile. "And I mean it. You've exceeded every expectation. I knew you were smart, but you've proven to be so much more than that. You have incredible instincts, and your work ethic is unmatched." Emelyn's heart swelled with gratitude, her eyes brightening. "I just want to make the most of this opportunity. You believed in me when no one else did. I don't want to let you down." Dawson's smile was genuine, his voice gentle. "You could never let me down, Emelyn. You've already proven yourself 10 times over. Just remember to take care of yourself too. Don't stay too late. You need time for yourself too." Emily nodded, her heart feeling lighter. "I will. Thank you, Dawson." Dawson gave her one last approving nod before walking away, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. Emelyn watched him go, a deep sense of gratitude filling her heart. He had given her a chance when no one else would have, and his faith in her was the driving force behind her determination. As she finally gathered her things and headed for the door, Emelyn couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning. There was so much more to accomplish, and for the first time in a long time, she truly believed that she could achieve it all. Emelyn's days at the company began to fall into a steady rhythm. She would arrive early, eager to tackle the challenges that awaited her, and leave late, always striving to learn and improve. She was determined to make the most of the opportunity Dawson had given her, and nothing was going to stand in her way. Over the next few weeks, her contributions to the company became more significant, and she quickly earned the respect of her colleagues. Her mentor, Alessandro, continued to guide her through the complexities of corporate finance and operations. Under Alessandro's tutelage, Emelyn became proficient at analyzing financial reports, identifying potential issues, and suggesting solutions that no one else had considered. Alessandro was consistently impressed with how quickly Emelyn adapted to the corporate environment. One afternoon, as they reviewed a particularly complicated financial forecast, Alessandra looked at Emelyn with admiration. "You've got a real talent for this, Emelyn. It's like you've been doing this for years." Emelyn's face lit up with a smile, a familiar rush of pride flooding her chest. "I guess I'm just motivated to prove myself." Alessandra's expression softened, her eyes sincere. "You don't need to prove anything. You've already shown that you belong here. The work you've done so far has been exceptional. Your insights are sharp, and you have a perspective that's refreshingly different." Emelyn felt her heart swell at the praise. She had spent so much of her life doubting herself, feeling like she was always one step behind everyone else. But now, for the first time, she felt like she was on equal footing, capable of achieving anything she set her mind to. The corporate world was still vastly different from her old life as a waitress, but Emelyn had found her footing. Her background in economics allowed her to see things from a unique angle, and she often brought ideas to the table that others hadn't considered. Her fresh perspective, combined with her natural intelligence and determination, made her stand out in every meeting she attended. Dawson watched her progress with quiet pride, his belief in her growing stronger every day. He saw how she adapted, how she learned, and how she faced every challenge with determination and grace. It gave him a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that he had made the right choice in bringing her on board. Emelyn was more than just the waitress who had saved him from a disastrous deal. She was a rising star, a vital asset to the company, and someone who had changed his life in ways he hadn't anticipated. As the days turned into weeks, Emelyn continued to thrive, gaining more confidence and respect from her peers. She had proven herself capable, intelligent, and resourceful, and Dawson knew she was only just beginning to tap into her potential. One evening, as she was leaving the office, Dawson caught up to her. "Emelyn," he called out, his voice warm. "I heard about the report you did for Alessandra. She was impressed, so am I. You're doing exceptional work." Emelyn's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "Thank you, Dawson. I'm just trying to do my best." Dawson's expression softened, his voice sincere. "Your best is better than most people's greatest efforts. I'm proud of you." Emily's heart fluttered, her smile widening. "I won't let you down." Dawson smiled back, his eyes filled with warmth. "I know. I never doubted you." As she walked out of the building, her heart felt light, her spirit renewed. She was no longer the timid waitress who had overheard a secret. She was Emelyn Adams, a rising force in the corporate world. And with Dawson's faith in her, she knew there was no limit to what she could achieve. More and more, Dawson began to rely on Emelyn's insights during strategy meetings, asking for her opinion on key decisions and listening to her suggestions with genuine interest. Her perspective was fresh, her ideas bold, and her instincts sharp. It wasn't long before her colleagues began to look to her for guidance, and Dawson saw in her the potential for leadership that went beyond her role. One day, Dawson called Emelyn into his office for a private meeting. She entered, her heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and nerves. Although they had developed a comfortable working relationship, she still felt a sense of awe around him. After all, he was the man who had not only given her a second chance, but had trusted her enough to let her thrive in his company. Dawson was leaning back in his chair, his posture relaxed, but his gaze serious, as he gestured for her to sit. "Emelyn," he began, his voice calm but purposeful. "I've been reviewing your work over the past few weeks, and I have to say, I'm impressed." Emelyn's heart raced, her eyes widening. "Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I've been trying to do my best," she managed, her voice a little shaky. Dawson smiled, his expression warm. "You've done more than that. You've brought a fresh perspective to the team, and your ability to identify issues before they become problems has saved us more than once. You have a real gift for this." A rush of gratitude surged through Emelyn, her face flushing with pride. "That means a lot coming from you." Dawson's smile grew wider, his eyes gleaming with approval. "I'm glad to hear that. I've been thinking about how we can further develop your role here. You've already proven yourself capable of handling more responsibility, and I'd like to see you take on a leadership position." Emelyn blinked, her heart skipping a beat. A leadership position?" Dawson nodded, his demeanor serious. "Yes, I want to put you in charge of a new project. We're launching an expansion into a new market. You'll be working directly with me to develop the strategy, analyze the financials, and oversee the implementation. It's a big step, but I think you're ready for it." Emelyn's mind raced. A leadership position. She had only been at the company for a short time, and now Dawson was asking her to take on such a significant role. It was thrilling and terrifying. I don't know what to say," she stammered, her hands trembling slightly. "I'm honored, but are you sure I'm ready for something like this?" Dawson leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers, his expression both serious and encouraging. "I wouldn't offer it to you if I didn't think you were ready. You've earned this, Emelyn. You have the skills, the vision, and the work ethic to make this project a success. I've seen how you handle challenges, how you think through problems from every angle. You're ready for this." Emelyn hesitated, her mind still processing the enormity of the opportunity, but as she looked into Dawson's eyes, she realized that he truly believed in her. His faith in her abilities gave her the confidence she needed to say, "Yes, I'd be honored to take on the project." Her voice filled with determination, she added, "I won't let you down." Dawson's smile was warm, his eyes shining with pride. "I know you won't. We'll start planning next week, but in the meantime, take the weekend to relax. You've earned it." Emelyn nodded, her mind still spinning from the conversation. As she left Dawson's office, she couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. She had just been given the chance to lead a major project, something she had never imagined happening so soon. It was an incredible responsibility, but she was ready to take it on. Over the next few days, Emelyn threw herself into preparations for the new project. She worked closely with Dawson and Alessandra, gathering data, analyzing market trends, and developing a comprehensive strategy. The project was ambitious. It involved expanding the company's reach into international markets, a move that could significantly increase their revenue, but also came with its own set of challenges. Emelyn quickly realized that this was no small task. There were countless variables to consider, from local regulations to cultural differences to financial risks. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, she felt energized. Every day was a new challenge, and she thrived in the fast-paced environment. As the project progressed, Emelyn began to see the bigger picture of how the company operated on a global scale. She was learning more than she ever had in school, and with Dawson's guidance, she felt more confident in her decisions. Dawson's trust in her never wavered, and their working relationship grew stronger as they navigated the complexities of the expansion together. He valued her insights, and more importantly, he respected her vision. Emelyn was no longer just an employee. She was a trusted advisor, a leader in the making. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Dawson pulled Emelyn aside. They were standing by the large windows in the office, overlooking the city as the sun set behind the skyscrapers, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. "I wanted to tell you something, Emelyn," Dawson said, his tone more serious than usual. Emelyn looked at him, her curiosity piqued. "What is it?" Dawson paused for a moment, his eyes fixed on the skyline. "I've been thinking a lot about the past few months. Everything we've been through. Rion's betrayal, the work we've done to protect the company, and this new project. I couldn't have done any of it without you." Emelyn blinked, her heart skipping a beat. "I'm just doing my part, Dawson." Dawson shook his head, his eyes sincere. "No, you've done more than that. You've proven that you're not just another employee. You're a leader. You have vision, courage, and integrity. You stood by me when things were falling apart, and you helped me rebuild." Emelyn felt a swell of emotion. She had never expected this when she first warned Dawson about Rion, but now she was standing here, shoulder to shoulder with him, helping to shape the future of the company. Dawson's voice softened, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You've earned everything that's come your way, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we accomplish together." Emelyn looked out at the sunset, the light reflecting in her eyes. She knew there were still challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long time, she felt truly capable of handling them. She was no longer the waitress who had stumbled upon a secret. She was Emelyn Adams, a leader, a visionary, and a force to be reckoned with. Together, they turned to watch the sunset, knowing that a new chapter was just beginning. The expansion project that Emelyn was leading was moving ahead faster than expected. Under her leadership and Dawson's guidance, the company was making significant strides toward breaking into the international market. Every day brought new challenges, but Emelyn faced them head-on, confident in her abilities and the unwavering support she had from her team. However, not everything was smooth sailing. Just as Emelyn and Dawson were beginning to feel the momentum of their success, an unexpected issue arose. Rion Dawson hadn't heard from Rion since their last confrontation, and he had assumed that Rion had left the city quietly, his tail between his legs. The legal battles were ongoing, but Dawson had largely put his former friend out of his mind. That was until one morning when he arrived at the office to find a grim-faced security officer waiting outside his door. "Mr. Sullivan, I think you should see this," the officer said, his tone serious as he handed Dawson a sealed envelope. Dawson frowned, his instincts immediately on high alert. His name was printed neatly across the front of the envelope. There was no return address, and the weight of it was unusual, heavier than a letter. He could feel something solid inside. "What is this?" Dawson asked, his fingers tracing the edges of the envelope. "It was delivered to the front desk this morning," the officer explained. "No return address, just your name." The receptionist said a courier dropped it off and left without a word. Dawson's mind raced. It had been months since Rion's betrayal, and while his legal team was handling the frozen accounts and fallout, Dawson had largely moved on. He had focused on rebuilding, on growing the company with Emelyn's help. But now, seeing the envelope and the mysterious USB drive inside, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was connected to Rion. "Thanks," Dawson said quietly, dismissing the officer. He quickly made his way into his office, locking the door behind him. He sat at his desk, the envelope lying ominously before him. He hesitated for a moment, then carefully tore it open, revealing a single USB drive. His name was scrawled on a small label stuck to the side. A cold chill ran down his spine as he held it in his hand. Should he open it or contact Julio, his investigator, first? After a moment of deliberation, Dawson plugged the drive into his computer. A single video file popped up on the screen, its title simply labeled, "To Dawson." His heart pounded as he clicked on it. The screen flickered, and the video began to play. The grainy footage showed Rion sitting in what looked like a hotel room. He wore a smug expression, leaning back in his chair as he addressed the camera directly. "Dawson," Rion's voice filled the room, dripping with disdain. "By now you're probably thinking, you've won. You froze my accounts, cut me off from the company, and ruined everything I worked for." Rion leaned forward, his eyes cold. "But here's the thing. You didn't destroy me. Not by a long shot." Dawson clenched his jaw, anger rising in his chest as Rion's words washed over him. He had known that Rion was bitter, but seeing his face again, hearing his voice, made the betrayal feel fresh all over again. Rion's smirk widened, his eyes gleaming with malice. "I've still got cards to play, and I've been busy since our little fallout. You think you can just take everything from me and walk away clean? I don't think so. I've been gathering information that could destroy you, your company, and everything you've built." Dawson's hands tightened into fists as the implications sank in. What kind of information did Rion have? Was it real, or was this just another one of his manipulative games? Rion leaned closer to the camera, his expression darkening. "I've made connections, Dawson. Powerful ones. And I'm not just talking about the business world. You might want to check the headlines soon. Let's just say when the media gets a hold of what I have, your precious reputation will be in tatters." The video ended abruptly, leaving Dawson staring at the screen in stunned silence. His mind raced, his thoughts swirling with fear, anger, and uncertainty. What could Rion possibly have on him? Dawson had always been cautious, making sure his dealings were above board. But Rion was resourceful. If he had managed to dig up something damaging, even if it wasn't true, the mere implication could ruin everything. His phone buzzed, snapping him out of his daze. It was Julio. "I just got wind of something," Julio said, his voice urgent. "There are whispers circulating that someone's about to leak a scandal tied to your name. It's not clear what it is yet, but the sources seem reliable. I'm looking into it now, but I thought you should know." Dawson's blood ran cold. It was happening. Rion was following through on his threat. "I just watched a video from him," Dawson said, his voice tight. "He claims he has information that could destroy me. He's going to the media with it." Julio cursed under his breath. "Damn it. He's trying to ruin you through public perception. Even if it's false, once it's out there, it'll be impossible to contain." Dawson gripped the edge of his desk, his knuckles white. "What do we do?" "I'm already digging for leads," Julio replied. "I'll find out who he's talking to and what he has. In the meantime, you need to get ahead of this. Call your PR team, prepare a statement, and brace for impact. If he's going public, you need to control the narrative." Dawson hung up, his chest heaving as he tried to calm himself. This was no longer just about legal battles or corporate takeovers. Rion was waging a war on his reputation, his name, his legacy. He immediately called Emelyn. When she picked up, he wasted no time. "I need you in my office, now! We have a problem!" Within minutes, Emelyn arrived, her eyes wide with concern. "What's going on?" Dawson played the video for her, his jaw clenched as Rion's threats echoed through the room. When it ended, Emily's face was pale, her eyes flashing with anger. "He's really trying to destroy you." Dawson nodded, his voice cold. "He's playing dirty, and he's not just coming after me, he's coming after the company, everything we've built." Emily's expression hardened, her resolve clear. "Then we'll fight back. Whatever he's planning, we'll be ready." Dawson looked at her, his respect and trust growing even more. "I knew I could count on you." Together, they began to formulate a plan. Dawson contacted his PR team, bracing for the storm that was about to hit, while Emelyn coordinated with Julio to track down the source of the leak. Rion had declared war, but Dawson wasn't going down without a fight, not this time. And as Emelyn stood by his side, he knew they were stronger together than Rion could have ever anticipated. Without wasting any more time, Dawson grabbed his phone and dialed Julio. "Julio, it's Dawson, we've got a problem," he said, his voice tight with urgency. "What's going on?" Julio's voice was instantly alert, picking up on Dawson's tone. "It's Rion, he just sent me a video, and he's threatening to go public with something. He says he's been gathering information on me, and he's planning to leak it to the media." Julio was silent for a moment, his mind racing through the implications. Then his voice came through the line, calm and focused. "All right, don't panic. We need to handle this carefully. First, send me the video. I'll have my team analyze it and see if there's any way to trace where it was filmed. We need to find out where Rion is and what he's really planning." Dawson nodded, even though Julio couldn't see him. "I'll send it over right away." "Good. In the meantime, don't engage with him. He's trying to provoke a reaction, and the more calm and calculated we are, the better chance we have of stopping him before he does any real damage." "I'll get my team on this. Stay strong, Dawson." "We're not letting him win this time." Dawson hung up and immediately sent the video to Julio. He leaned back in his chair, his fingers tightening around the armrests as he tried to steady his breathing. Rion was dangerous, and now more than ever, Dawson needed to be one step ahead. But this wasn't just about business anymore. Rion was out for revenge, and he wasn't going to stop until Dawson was ruined. As the hours passed, Dawson worked closely with his legal team and Julio's investigators to prepare for whatever Rion might throw at him. Despite their efforts, there was no way to predict exactly what Rion had planned. The uncertainty weighed on Dawson, making it hard to focus on anything else. He kept his phone close, waiting for any updates from Julio. Later that evening, as Dawson sat in his office, the lights dimmed and his desk scattered with paperwork, there was a soft knock at the door. "Dawson?" Emelyn's voice was gentle as she stepped inside when he waved her in. Her face was filled with concern. "I heard there's something going on. Are you all right?" Dawson sighed, running a hand through his hair, his shoulders sagging. "It's Rion. He's back, and he's threatening to go public with something damaging. I don't know what he has, but it could be bad. If he pulls this off, everything I've built could fall apart." Emelyn's face fell, her expression tightening with worry. "I thought he was gone for good." "So did I," Dawson replied, his voice strained. "But apparently, I underestimated him. He's not just trying to hurt me. He's trying to destroy everything. My company, my reputation, my future." Emily sat down across from him, her eyes never leaving his face. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Dawson looked at her, a wave of gratitude washing over him. She had been by his side through everything, standing by him even when things looked bleak. She was one of the few people he could trust without question. "Just keep doing what you've been doing," he said finally. "I'm handling it, but I might need your support if this gets worse. He's playing dirty, and I don't know how far he's willing to go." Emelyn's expression hardened, her resolve clear. "You can count on me, Dawson. Whatever happens, we'll get through it together." Dawson gave her a small, grateful smile. "Thanks, Emelyn. That means a lot." As Emelyn left the office, Dawson turned his chair toward the window, staring out at the darkened city skyline. The lights of the buildings shimmered like stars, but to him they felt distant and cold. Rion might have come back with a vengeance, but Dawson wasn't going to let him win. Not this time. The tension in the air was thick. In the days following Rion's threat, Dawson had barely slept, his mind consumed with worry over what Rion might have in store. Every morning he checked the news, bracing himself for a potential bombshell, but so far there had been nothing. It was as if Rion was playing a waiting game, letting the anticipation gnaw away at Dawson's nerves. Julio and his team worked tirelessly to gather as much information as possible. They managed to trace the video back to a small, nondescript hotel on the outskirts of the city. Julio had dispatched a team to investigate, but Rion had already checked out by the time they arrived. "He's being careful," Julio said during one of their daily calls. "He's not staying in one place for too long, which means he knows we're looking for him. But he's slipping up, getting impatient. That's how we'll catch him." Dawson's frustration mounted as the days passed without any sign of resolution. The threat of Rion's next move loomed over everything. Even in the office, the usual rhythm of work felt disrupted. Emelyn, ever the steady hand, kept things running smoothly, but she could see the strain on Dawson's face. One evening, as Dawson sat alone in his office, scrolling through the endless reports from Julio's team, his phone buzzed on the desk. It was Julio. "We've got something," Julio said, his tone serious but tinged with relief. Rion slipped up. Dawson sat up straighter, his pulse quickening. "What do you mean?" "One of our guys managed to intercept a message Rion sent to a media contact. He's been trying to sell a story about you, but it's all built on lies. He's fabricating details, mixing in half-truths, and it seems like he's desperate to get something published before anyone can verify the facts." Dawson felt a rush of anger. "He's trying to destroy my reputation with lies?" Julio's voice was firm. "Yes, and that's his weakness. He's panicking, trying to get ahead before we can counter him. If we move fast, we can discredit him before the story gains traction." Dawson's eyes hardened, his jaw clenching. "Let's do it, whatever it takes. He's not going to get away with this." Julio's voice was filled with determination. "I've already contacted the media outlet he's working with. We're going to expose his lies before he can do any real damage." Dawson leaned back, a new sense of hope surging through him. Rion had made his move, but he wasn't as smart as he thought. "Keep me updated. I want to be ready when this blows up in his face." "You got it," Julio replied. "We're turning the tables on him. He won't see it coming." Dawson hung up, his chest tightening with anticipation. The battle was far from over, but now he had the upper hand. Rion thought he could destroy him, but Dawson was stronger than he realized. He looked out at the city once more, his resolve unbreakable. Rion had started this war, but Dawson was going to finish it. Dawson felt a wave of both relief and anger wash over him. So Rion's so-called evidence was nothing but smoke and mirrors, a calculated smear campaign designed to ruin his reputation through deception and lies. Rion had always been cunning, but this was a new low, even for him. "What's the story?" Dawson asked, his voice tight with tension, dreading the answer. Julio's tone was calm but firm. "He's spinning a narrative about financial misconduct, claiming you've been involved in illegal deals with foreign companies, and that you've been using offshore accounts to hide profits. It's all fabricated, but he's trying to make it sound credible by mixing in half-truths and manipulating facts." Dawson exhaled slowly, the knot in his stomach loosening just slightly. He had always been careful to keep his dealings above board, but he knew how damaging rumors could be, even if they were lies. "Can we stop him? We're already on it," Julio assured him. "I've contacted the media outlets he's been talking to, and we're getting ahead of the story. We've got our own narrative, backed by facts, ready to go. Once we present the real story about Rion's betrayal, the stolen funds, and the offshore accounts he was using, it'll completely discredit anything he tries to say about you. We're turning his lies back on him." A flicker of hope sparked in Dawson's chest, and he nodded, feeling some of the weight lifting off his shoulders. "What about Rion? Can we stop him from trying this again?" "That's the other part of the good news," Julio said, his voice firm and confident. "We've gathered enough evidence to take legal action. Between the frozen accounts, the financial records we've uncovered, and this latest attempt to smear you, we've built a solid case. I've already spoken to your legal team and they're ready to move forward. Rion's running out of options. Dawson leaned back in his chair, the tension that had been gripping him for days finally beginning to ease. So, this is it. We can finally put an end to this. Julio's voice was resolute. Yes, we're shutting him down legally and publicly. Once we file the lawsuit, he'll be backed into a corner, and with the evidence we've got, there's no way he can spin this in his favor. The call ended, and Dawson sat in silence for a few moments, letting the relief wash over him. Rion had come at him with everything he had, but in the end, his lies were unraveling. Dawson had weathered the storm, and now the tables were turning. He glanced at his phone, his mind racing as he thought about everything that had happened. He had almost lost everything: his company, his reputation, his legacy. All because of Rion's greed and jealousy. But now, he was in control again. Later that evening, Dawson met with his legal team to finalize their strategy. They were going to file a lawsuit against Rion for defamation, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. It was the final nail in the coffin for Rion's schemes. With the evidence they had gathered, Rion wouldn't be able to hide behind his lies any longer. "This isn't just about defending yourself," one of his attorneys said, her voice firm. "It's about sending a message. Rion tried to destroy you, and now he's going to face the consequences. We're not just stopping him, we're making sure he can't do this to anyone else." Dawson felt a renewed sense of determination. This wasn't just about protecting himself anymore. It was about standing up to someone who had betrayed him in the worst possible way. Rion had tried to destroy him, but Dawson wasn't going to let him get away with it. They worked late into the night, reviewing every piece of evidence, crafting their legal arguments, and preparing for the media storm that was sure to follow. Dawson's heart raced with anticipation, his anger simmering beneath the surface. He had trusted Rion, seen him as a brother, and Rion had tried to ruin him out of greed and envy. But now, the truth was coming to light. And this time, Rion wouldn't be able to hide behind his lies. The following morning, the news broke. Dawson's legal team had issued a statement to the press detailing Rion's actions, the financial misconduct, the theft, and the attempt to frame Dawson. They laid out the evidence clearly, showing the trail of offshore accounts Rion had used to siphon funds, and the fabricated documents he had tried to use to discredit Dawson. The media quickly picked up the story, and within hours, Rion's name was splashed across headlines as the villain in a corporate scandal. Reporters were calling it one of the most shocking betrayals in the industry, and as the story spread, public opinion shifted rapidly against Rion. Dawson watched from his office as the news unfolded, feeling a sense of vindication. The headlines were brutal. Corporate betrayal, Rion exposed for fraud and defamation, the mastermind behind the smear campaign, Rion's plot unraveled, former business partner faces legal action for financial misconduct. Dawson's phone buzzed. It was Julio. "It's working," Julio said, satisfaction evident in his voice. "The media's eating it up. Rion's lies are falling apart and his reputation is in shambles. He didn't expect us to hit back this hard." Dawson's lips curled into a grim smile. "He underestimated us. He thought he could manipulate the narrative, but now the truth is out." Julio's tone grew serious. "And we're not done yet. I've just got word. Rion's lawyer is scrambling to negotiate a settlement. He knows he's lost. They want to avoid a trial." Dawson's jaw tightened, his anger flaring. No deals. He wanted war. Now he's going to face the consequences. File the lawsuit. Let him feel the full weight of what he's done. Julio's voice was resolute. "Consider it done. We're taking him down." Dawson hung up, his chest rising and falling with a mix of relief and righteous fury. Rion had tried to destroy his reputation, but now the truth was out, and it was Rion who would be facing the consequences. As he looked out the window at the bustling city below, Dawson felt a sense of closure he hadn't thought possible. Rion had betrayed him, tried to ruin him, but in the end, the truth had prevailed. He turned back to his desk, his resolve unshakable. There was still work to be done. He needed to rebuild, to restore his company's reputation, and to move forward. But for the first time in months, he felt free from the shadow of Rion's betrayal. Dawson's phone buzzed again. This time, it was Emelyn. Her message was simple but powerful. "We did it. The truth won." Dawson smiled, his heart lighter than it had been in a long time. Rion had tried to destroy him, but Dawson had fought back and won. And now it was time to rebuild. Stronger, smarter, and without fear. Rion's lies had fallen, and Dawson Sullivan was still standing. Emelyn knocked softly on his door and stepped inside, her expression a mix of relief and concern. "I saw the news," she said quietly, her voice gentle. "It looks like everything's finally coming to light." Dawson nodded, his gaze still fixed on the screen where headlines exposed the truth about Rion's schemes. "It's over, at least the worst of it. Rion's going to have to face the consequences of what he's done. There's no escaping it now." Emelyn moved closer, standing by his desk, her presence a calming influence. "You've been through a lot these past few months. I'm just glad you came out on top." Dawson glanced up at her, his eyes softening as he saw the genuine concern on her face. "I couldn't have done it without you, Emelyn. You've been by my side through all of this. You stood by me when things were falling apart, even when I was losing faith in myself." Emelyn smiled, her eyes warm. "I'm just glad I could help. I believed in you, Dawson. I always have." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of the past few months finally beginning to lift. Rion's threats had been neutralized, his lies exposed, and Dawson could finally begin to focus on the future without the shadow of betrayal hanging over him. But as he looked at Emelyn, he realized that the future wasn't just about business anymore. She had been more than just a loyal employee. She had been his confidant, his ally, and his anchor. She had shown courage and integrity when he needed it most. "You've been more than just a help," Dawson said, his voice quieter now, tinged with a vulnerability he rarely showed. "You've become someone I rely on, someone I trust completely." Emelyn's expression softened further, her eyes glistening as she held his gaze. "I feel the same way. You believed in me when no one else did. You gave me a chance to prove myself, and I'll always be grateful for that." Dawson's smile was warm, his heart lighter than it had been in months. "I think we make a pretty good team." Emelyn laughed softly, her face brightening. "I think so too." The tension of the past few weeks slowly melted away, replaced by a sense of peace and closure. Rion had tried to tear them apart, but instead, he had only strengthened the bond between them. Dawson stood up, his shoulders no longer weighed down by fear or uncertainty. He extended his hand to Emelyn, his eyes shining with renewed determination. "Let's get back to work. We've got a lot to look forward to." Emelyn took his hand, her grip firm and confident, a smile spreading across her face. "Absolutely. There's still so much to accomplish, and I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else." Together, they stepped out of the office, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring. With Rion's defeat behind them, the company began to settle back into its regular rhythm. The media had moved on to the next big story, and the legal battles surrounding Rion were well underway. Dawson felt a sense of closure he hadn't thought possible just a few weeks before. The storm had passed, and now he could focus on what truly mattered, the future of his company and the people who had stood by him through it all. Emelyn continued to excel in her new leadership role. The expansion project she had been tasked with was nearing completion, and every day she proved that Dawson's trust in her had been well placed. Her attention to detail, her sharp analytical skills, and her ability to see beyond the surface made her an invaluable asset to the team. Under her leadership, the company made significant strides in international markets, securing strategic partnerships and expanding their reach in ways Dawson had only dreamed of. Her innovative ideas and fearless approach to problem-solving set her apart, and it wasn't long before her name became synonymous with success within the company. Everyone respected her, not just because she was smart and hard-working, but because she had shown courage and integrity when it mattered most. She was a leader in every sense of the word, and Dawson couldn't have been prouder. One afternoon, as Emelyn was wrapping up a meeting with the international team, Dawson called her into his office. She entered with her usual smile, though she was still sometimes surprised by how much had changed in such a short time. "You wanted to see me?" she asked, taking a seat across from his desk. Dawson looked up, his eyes lighting up as he saw her. "Yeah, I did. I've been reviewing the progress on the expansion project, and I have to say, you've exceeded every expectation. The international team is raving about your leadership, and the numbers speak for themselves. You're making waves, Emelyn." Emelyn's cheeks flushed with pride. "Thank you, Dawson. It's been a challenge, but I've learned so much, and I couldn't have done it without your support and guidance." Dawson's expression softened, his voice sincere. "You give me too much credit. You've done this on your own merit. Your vision, your determination, your integrity, that's all you. Emelyn's curiosity was piqued. What is it? Dawson leaned forward, his hands clasped together on the desk. I want to promote you to Director of International Strategy. You've proven that you have the leadership and vision to take us to new heights, and I want you to keep doing what you're doing on an even bigger scale. Emelyn's eyes widened, her heart racing. Director? Dawson, I don't know what to say. Dawson smiled warmly. Say yes. You've earned this, Emelyn. You saved this company from disaster, you led us through the toughest expansion we've ever faced, and you did it with courage and integrity. There's no one else I trust more to take this on. Emily's voice trembled with emotion. I'd be honored. Yes, of course. I'll do my best. I won't let you down. Dawson's eyes gleamed with pride. I know you won't. You never have. They stood up, shaking hands, their partnership stronger than ever. As they stood there facing each other, Dawson felt a surge of gratitude for the woman standing before him. Emelyn had walked into his life as a stranger, a waitress who had risked everything to do the right thing, and now she was his most trusted ally, his right hand and his friend. I'm proud of you, Emelyn, Dawson said quietly. You've come so far, and I have no doubt that this is just the beginning. Emelyn's eyes shimmered, her voice filled with conviction. We've come this far together, and there's no one else I'd rather build the future with. Dawson's smile was warm, his heart full. Then let's make it happen, together. As Emelyn left his office, her heart swelling with hope and anticipation, they had faced betrayal, deception, and danger, and they had won. Now, it was time to build something even greater, together. Dawson leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful, his gaze unwavering as he looked at Emelyn. I've been thinking a lot about everything we've been through these past few months, he began, his voice calm but serious, and I realized that I owe you more than just a thank you. Emelyn tilted her head slightly, her eyes searching his face as she tried to read his intentions. You've already done so much, Dawson. I don't expect anything more. Dawson's smile was warm, his eyes reflecting genuine admiration. That's just the thing. You never expect anything even though you've more than earned it. That's what makes you special. You've gone above and beyond, not just for me but for the company, and I think it's time we recognize that. Emelyn's eyes widened slightly, a sense of anticipation building inside her. What do you mean? Dawson leaned forward, his posture earnest, his voice steady and sincere. I want to offer you a permanent leadership role. Emelyn's breath caught in her throat, her heart racing. A leadership role? Dawson nodded, his expression unwavering. Yes, you've proven time and time again that you're capable of handling high-level responsibilities, and I think it's time for you to have a seat at the executive table. I'd like you to become part of the senior management team, overseeing our international operations. You've been instrumental in helping us expand, and I can't think of anyone better suited for this position. For a moment, Emelyn was speechless. She had started out as a waitress, warning Dawson about a betrayal she had overheard, never expecting anything in return, and now, here she was, being offered one of the most prestigious positions in the company. I don't know what to say, she finally whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. This is more than I ever imagined. Dawson's smile grew, his eyes filled with pride. You've earned every bit of it, Emelyn. And this isn't just about what you've done for me personally. It's about what you've brought to this company. The ideas, the innovation, the leadership. You've made us better, and I want to make sure your talents are recognized. Tears pricked at the corners of Emelyn's eyes, and she quickly blinked them away. She had always worked hard, always pushed herself to be the best she could be, but she never dreamed it would lead her here. I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. I'll do everything I can to live up to it. I promise. I won't let you down. Dawson's voice was warm, his confidence in her unwavering. I have no doubt about that. And don't worry, you won't be doing it alone. We'll be working together closely, just like we have been. I'm excited to see what we can accomplish together. Emelyn's heart swelled with gratitude. She had fought so hard to get to this point, overcoming her doubts and fears, proving herself in a world she had once felt so unprepared for. But now, she felt like she truly belonged. This wasn't just a job anymore. It was her future, her career, and her chance to make a real difference. As she stood to leave, Dawson stopped her with a gentle smile. There's one more thing, he said, his tone light. Emelyn turned back, her curiosity piqued. "What is it?" "We're having a celebration next week," Dawson explained. "It's for the entire company, to celebrate the success of the expansion project, but I also want to take that opportunity to officially announce your new role to everyone. You deserve to be recognized for everything you've accomplished." Emelyn's heart fluttered at the thought. She had always been someone who preferred to work behind the scenes, letting her work speak for itself, but now she was being asked to step into the spotlight. It was daunting, but also exciting. "I'd be honored," she said softly, feeling a swell of pride. Dawson stood up, extending his hand to her, his eyes shining with respect and admiration. "Welcome to the leadership team, Emelyn." Emelyn took his hand, her grip firm despite the tears glistening in her eyes. "Thank you, Dawson, for everything." Their handshake lingered for a moment, a mutual understanding passing between them. They had been through so much together, from betrayal to victory, from uncertainty to triumph. They had faced challenges that would have broken lesser people, but they had come out stronger. As Emelyn left his office, her heart felt light, her spirit soaring. She was no longer the timid girl who had stumbled upon a secret. She was Emelyn Adams, a leader, a visionary, and now an executive. She had found her place and she was ready to lead. The week leading up to the celebration was a whirlwind of activity. Emelyn threw herself into her work with even more determination, eager to prove herself worthy of the trust Dawson had placed in her. She finalized the expansion project, tied up loose ends, and ensured everything was running smoothly for the launch. But no matter how busy she was, she couldn't shake the anticipation bubbling inside her. Dawson was going to announce her new role in front of the entire company, and she wanted to make sure she lived up to his expectations. The day of the celebration arrived, and the company's event hall was buzzing with excitement. Employees gathered, excited to celebrate the success of the expansion project and to hear Dawson's speech. Dawson took the stage, his presence commanding as he addressed the crowd. "This year has been one of the most challenging we've ever faced, but it's also been one of the most rewarding. We've expanded into new markets, forged new partnerships, and grown stronger as a team." The audience erupted into applause, their faces beaming with pride. And none of this would have been possible without the incredible dedication and leadership of one person, Dawson continued, his gaze shifting to where Emelyn stood at the side of the stage. "Someone who took on a challenge with courage, vision, and integrity. Someone who went from being an unsung hero to a leader who has inspired us all." Emelyn's heart raced, her cheeks flushing as all eyes turned to her. "It's my honor to announce that Emelyn Adams will be joining our senior management team as Director of International Strategy," Dawson declared, his voice clear and confident. "Her leadership has driven the success of our expansion project, and her vision will lead us into the future." The room erupted in applause, cheers echoing off the walls as Emelyn stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding with emotion. Dawson met her halfway, his smile genuine as he extended his hand. "You deserve this," he said quietly, his eyes full of pride, "and this is just the beginning." Emelyn took his hand, her grip firm as she looked out at the audience, her heart swelling with gratitude and hope. She had found her place, her purpose, her voice. And with Dawson by her side, she was ready to take on the world. The celebration arrived swiftly, and the atmosphere at the company was nothing short of electric. Held in a grand ballroom adorned with elegant chandeliers and lush floral arrangements, the event was a testament to the resilience and strength of the organization. Employees from every department filled the room, from the newest hires to the most seasoned members of the senior management team. There was an air of excitement, of triumph, knowing that they had weathered the storm of Rion's betrayal and emerged stronger on the other side. Dawson took the stage, his presence commanding the attention of everyone in the room. Dressed in a tailored suit, his demeanor was both poised and charismatic. The room fell silent as he began to speak, his voice carrying a weight of authority and gratitude. "This year has been one of the most challenging we've ever faced," he began, his eyes scanning the crowd, his voice firm and steady. "We've been tested in ways we never imagined, but we stood our ground. We faced adversity head-on, and we came out stronger because of it." Applause rippled through the audience, faces alight with pride and recognition. Dawson's words resonated with everyone present. They had all been part of the journey, and now they were celebrating their collective victory. Dawson continued, his voice unwavering. The success of our expansion project is a testament to our team's dedication, ingenuity, and perseverance. We've reached new heights, expanded into international markets, and solidified our position as industry leaders. And none of this would have been possible without the incredible people who make up this company. Emelyn stood off to the side of the stage, her heart pounding with anticipation. She watched Dawson with a mixture of admiration and gratitude, fully aware of how pivotal his role had been, not just as a leader, but as the person who had believed in her when no one else did. It was surreal to think about how far she had come, from a waitress overhearing a dangerous conversation to standing here, on the brink of a new chapter in her life. Dawson's voice broke through her thoughts, his tone shifting to one of genuine appreciation. There is one person in particular who has shown extraordinary courage, intelligence, and leadership. Someone who stepped up when everything was on the line, who faced challenges head-on and turned obstacles into opportunities. This person not only helped us navigate through our darkest days, but also played a crucial role in our greatest triumphs. Dawson's gaze found Emelyn, his eyes softening as he smiled warmly. Emelyn Adams. The room erupted into applause, a wave of admiration and respect washing over her. Emelyn felt her heart race, her hands trembling slightly as she took a deep breath. This was her moment. Dawson gestured for her to join him on stage, his smile never wavering. Emelyn walked up, her head held high, her posture confident despite the butterflies dancing in her stomach. She could feel hundreds of eyes on her, but she focused on Dawson, his reassuring presence giving her the courage she needed. As she reached his side, Dawson continued, his voice carrying a sense of pride that made Emelyn's heart swell. Emelyn has been a key part of our success, and today I am proud to announce that she will be taking on a permanent leadership role, overseeing our international operations as part of our senior management team. The applause grew louder, cheers echoing off the ballroom walls. Emelyn felt a rush of emotion, her eyes shimmering as she looked out at the crowd. She saw familiar faces, colleagues who had become friends, mentors who had guided her, and team members who had supported her every step of the way. She had worked tirelessly to get here, driven by determination and a desire to prove herself. But she hadn't done it alone. Dawson had given her the chance, believed in her potential, and now she was standing here, receiving the recognition she had never dared to dream of. Dawson handed her the microphone, his eyes gleaming with encouragement. Emelyn took it, her hands no longer trembling, her voice steady as she began to speak. "I just want to say thank you," she began, her voice strong but laced with emotion. "To Dawson, to the team, and to everyone who has supported me along the way. I never imagined I'd be standing here today, but I am truly grateful for this opportunity." She paused, her eyes sweeping across the audience. "When I first started this journey, I was just someone who overheard a conversation. I never expected anything in return. I just wanted to do the right thing. But Dawson gave me a chance to prove myself, to grow, and to become the leader I never knew I could be." Her voice softened, a smile breaking across her face. "I'm excited to continue working with all of you, to learn, to grow, and to lead us into a future filled with possibilities. This company has given me more than just a career, it's given me a purpose. And I promise to dedicate myself to helping us achieve even greater success." The applause was deafening, the room erupting into cheers and shouts of congratulations. Emelyn looked at Dawson, her eyes glistening with gratitude. He nodded, his face filled with pride, his voice low as he whispered, "You did it. You deserve every bit of this." As the applause continued, Dawson turned back to the audience. "Please join me in congratulating Emelyn Adams, our new Director of International Strategy." The room roared with applause, and Emelyn felt a rush of exhilaration, a sense of accomplishment washing over her. She had made it. She had found her place. In the weeks that followed, Emelyn settled into her new role with confidence and grace. She quickly proved herself as an effective and respected leader, guiding her team through complex international operations, navigating challenges with strategic brilliance, and driving growth that exceeded all expectations. Dawson, as always, was by her side, guiding her when needed but trusting her to make decisions on her own. Their partnership grew stronger with each passing day, their shared vision driving the company to new heights. One evening, long after most of the staff had gone home, Emelyn walked through the office, taking in the quiet hum of the building. She paused by the large windows, looking out over the city skyline, the lights twinkling like stars. It was a breathtaking view, a reminder of how far she had come. She thought back to the girl she had been, the waitress who had taken a risk, who had faced her fears to do the right thing. She had never expected any of this, but she had earned every bit of it through hard work, determination, and the courage to believe in herself. As she stood there, she heard footsteps behind her. Turning around, she saw Dawson approaching, his expression warm. "Taking it all in?" he asked, his voice gentle. Emelyn smiled, her heart full. "Yeah, it feels surreal." Dawson stood beside her, looking out at the city. "You've earned this, Emelyn, and I have no doubt that this is just the beginning." Emelyn looked at him, her eyes bright with gratitude. "Thank you, Dawson, for everything." Dawson's smile was soft, his voice sincere. "No, thank you for saving my company, for standing by my side, and for showing me what real courage looks like." They stood there, side by side, looking out at the city, their futures intertwined. Together, they were unstoppable. Did you enjoy this story? If so, drop a like and leave a kind comment to encourage us. Your support means the world. And don't forget, we love you.